It's such a simple question, yet it took me years to find an answer. You see, we live in a world that tells us to be kind, to be generous, to be loving. And I did all of that for everyone except myself. I gave and gave, thinking I was doing the right thing, until one day I found myself empty. I stood in front of the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back at me. Her eyes were tired, her smile was faint, and her heart, it was bruised. That's when it hit me. How could I give love to the world if I had forgotten how to give love to myself? We are taught to celebrate perfection, but life is anything but perfect. My life changed in an instant. One moment I was full of dreams. The next I was surrounded by darkness, staring at what I thought was the end. But do you know what I realized lying there? I wasn't broken. I was becoming. Self-love isn't about standing tall. It's about learning to stand again after you've fallen. It's about embracing every scar on your skin and every crack in your soul, because they tell the story of your courage, your strength. I learned that day, lying helpless, that I was still whole, that I was enough. Not because the world said so, but because I decided to believe it. And when you believe it, everything changes. You stop waiting for someone to save you. You become your own hero. You stop waiting for someone to validate you. You realize you were already worthy. And you stop hiding your flaws. You wear them like medals of honor. Self-love doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you alive. It fills you up so much that you can't help but spill that light onto everyone you meet. So today I ask you again, do you believe in self-love? If your answer is no, I want you to know it's never too late. You are still here, you are still breathing, and you are still worthy of loving yourself. Because when you do, you don't just change your life, you inspire everyone else to believe in theirs. Self-love is not selfish, it's survival. For a long time, many of us have been conditioned to think that prioritizing ourselves is a sign of arrogance or self-centeredness. We are told that thinking of ourselves first is wrong, that we must always put others before us to be good, kind, and compassionate human beings. But somewhere along the way, in this pursuit of constantly giving and serving others, we often forget that we are human too. We forget that we also need care, attention, and love. We lose ourselves in the process of being everything for everyone else. And in doing so, we neglect the most important relationship we will ever have, the relationship with ourselves. Self-love is the foundation upon which every other relationship in your life is built. It is not about vanity or pride. It is about recognizing your worth, acknowledging your needs, and respecting your boundaries. It is about knowing that you matter just as much as anyone else. You are not here to live your life solely to meet the expectations of others while neglecting your own well-being. If your cup is empty, you have nothing left to give. You cannot pour love, kindness, or energy from a place that is already drained. And yet, so many of us try to do exactly that. We run on empty, smiling when we are exhausted, giving when we are broken, and saying yes when our hearts are begging us to say no. We do it because we think we have to, but the truth is, we don't. Imagine holding a glass that is half full. Every time you give a little of yourself to someone, whether it's your time, energy, or love, you pour a little from that glass. But if you never refill it, eventually it will run dry. What happens then? You feel depleted. You feel resentful. You feel invisible. But when you practice self-love, you are constantly refilling that glass. You are nurturing yourself so that you can give to others not out of obligation or guilt, but out of genuine abundance. Loving yourself means listening to your body when it's tired instead of pushing through for the sake of productivity. It means saying no when your heart isn't in something rather than saying yes just to please others. It means forgiving yourself for your mistakes and not holding yourself hostage to guilt and shame. It means looking in the mirror and accepting the person staring back at you, flaws and all, knowing that you are still worthy of love and kindness, especially your own. There is a common belief that self-love is about spa days, vacations, or treating yourself to nice things. While these can be acts of self-care, true self-love goes much deeper. It is the way you speak to yourself in your own mind. It's the way you set boundaries to protect your peace. It's the way you stand up for yourself when someone disrespects you. It's the way you choose to believe in yourself even when others don't. Self-love is an everyday practice. It is choosing yourself. Not because you are better than anyone else, but because you are equal to everyone else. When you love yourself, you are no longer desperate for validation from others. You don't need someone else to tell you that you are beautiful, worthy, or good enough because you already know it. And from that knowing comes freedom. You are free to be yourself unapologetically. You are free to follow your dreams without fear of judgment. You are free to walk away from what no longer serves you without feeling guilty. You are free to love others without losing yourself. There was a time when I believed that loving myself meant I had failed to love others enough. I thought that taking time for myself made me selfish. I thought that saying no would make me a bad person. But life has a way of teaching you the truth in the most painful yet profound ways. There came a moment when I realized that no one was coming to save me, that no one could love me enough to fill the emptiness I felt inside. I had to be the one to do that. I had to be the one to heal myself, to be kind to myself, to stand up for myself. And when I did, everything changed. I became stronger, not because I was pretending to be, but because I finally allowed myself to be human. I became softer, not because I was weak, but because I stopped fighting with myself. I became happier, not because life was perfect, but because I accepted myself, scars and all. Self-love is not a destination. It is a journey that unfolds every single day. Other days it will feel impossible. But every act of love you give yourself, no matter how small, matters. It matters because you matter. And when you truly understand that, you will see that loving yourself is not selfish at all. It is survival. It is how you endure. It is how you thrive. And most importantly, it is how you learn to pour love into the world from a place of fullness, not emptiness. Acceptance is the beginning of self-love. It is that first gentle breath you take after years of holding yourself hostage to unrealistic standards and endless self-criticism. It is the quiet realization that you no longer have to fight with who you are. For so long, we are taught to strive for perfection, to erase every flaw, to hide every scar. We are told that we need to change in order to be worthy of love, to be enough. And so we fight. We fight with the mirror, wishing our bodies look different. We fight with our minds, wishing our thoughts were quieter, kinder. We fight with our pasts, wishing we had made different choices or been dealt different cards. This constant battle leaves us exhausted, and yet we keep fighting, thinking that maybe one day we will become the version of ourselves we can finally love. But the truth is that day only comes when we stop fighting, when we stop trying to fix everything that makes us human, and instead we soften, we let go. We look at our reflection, not with judgment, but with compassion. We trace our scars, and instead of wishing them away, we honor the stories they tell. Every scar is proof that we have survived something. Every imperfection is a testament to the fact that we are alive, living, and learning. Acceptance doesn't mean you are giving up or settling. It means you are making peace with yourself. It means you are choosing to love yourself here and now, not someday in the future when you think you will be perfect. There is a kind of freedom that comes with acceptance. It's the freedom to just be, to breathe without shame, to exist without constantly apologizing for who you are. When you accept yourself, you stop measuring your worth against someone else's highlight reel. You stop comparing your behind-the-scenes struggles with someone else's carefully curated life. You start to see yourself as enough, not because you have finally reached some impossible standard, but because you realize you are always enough to begin with. For many of us, acceptance feels like a mountain we can't climb. We've spent years, sometimes decades, believing we are not good enough. We've let the world convince us that we need to be thinner, prettier, smarter, more successful to deserve love, respect, and happiness. We have internalized the criticism of others until their voices became our own. And in doing so, we forgot how to be kind to ourselves. We forgot how to see our own beauty. But when you take that first step toward acceptance, it changes everything. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. You start to see things you never noticed before. You see the strength in your hands, the resilience in your eyes, the courage in your heart. You realize that every challenge you've faced has shaped you into the person you are today. And while you may not be perfect, you are real, you are authentic, and that is far more beautiful than perfection will ever be. Acceptance allows you to let go of the pressure to be something you're not. It lets you show up in the world as your true self, without masks or pretenses. You no longer feel the need to hide your struggles or pretend you have it all together. You can be vulnerable, you can be honest, you can say, "This is who I am," and know that it is enough. And when you live from that place of authenticity, you attract people who see and love the real you, not a version you've carefully constructed to fit someone else's idea of worthiness. There is power in standing in front of the mirror and saying, "I accept you." Power in tracing every line, every wrinkle, every scar and saying, "You are beautiful because you are a part of me." Power in forgiving yourself for the mistakes you've made, for the moments you wish you could rewrite. Acceptance doesn't erase pain, but it transforms it. It turns wounds into wisdom. It turns regret into understanding. It turns shame into compassion. The moment you stop fighting with your reflection, you create space for love to enter. You begin to treat yourself with the same tenderness you would offer a friend. You begin to honor your needs, to listen to your heart, to take care of yourself not out of obligation, but out of genuine love. You nourish your body because it deserves to be strong and healthy. You speak kindly to yourself because you understand the power of words. You rest when you need to because you recognize your worth is not tied to productivity. Acceptance is not a one-time decision. It is something you choose over and over again. On the days when self-doubt creeps in, when old insecurities resurface, you gently remind yourself that you are still worthy of love. On the days when you feel broken, you remind yourself that you are still whole. Acceptance becomes the quiet strength that carries you through. It becomes the foundation of your self-love. When you accept yourself fully, you start living, not just existing, not just going through the motions, but truly living. You stop waiting for life to begin once you've fixed everything you think is wrong with you. You stop waiting to be happy until you reach some future version of yourself. You allow yourself to be here, now, imperfect and whole. And that is where life truly begins. Acceptance is the beginning of self-love because it opens the door to everything else: joy, peace, confidence, and freedom. It is where your journey back to yourself starts, and it is the most important journey you will ever take. Pain can either break you or make you. Those are the two paths we are given when life throws its hardest lessons at us. There is no avoiding pain. It is a part of being human. Whether it comes from loss, disappointment, betrayal, or failure, pain is inevitable. What is not inevitable is what we choose to do with it. Some people let pain shatter them into pieces they never try to put back together. Others take those same broken pieces and build something stronger, something more beautiful than what existed before. The difference between breaking and making lies not in the pain itself, but in how we respond to it. Life's hardships are not punishments. We often think they are. We ask ourselves, why me? We believe we must have done something wrong to deserve the suffering we are going through. But life doesn't work that way. Pain doesn't discriminate between good people and bad people, between the deserving and undeserving. It finds us all at some point. What matters is not why it comes, but what we do when it does. Hardships are not signs that life is against you. They are opportunities to rediscover who you are beneath the layers of comfort and certainty. When everything is stripped away, when you are standing there feeling empty, lost, and broken, that is where your true strength can be found. Pain has a way of revealing parts of ourselves we didn't know existed. It forces us to look inward, to dig deep, and to find resilience that may have been dormant. Strength is not built in times of ease and comfort. It is built in moments when you are at your lowest, when you feel like you cannot go on, but you take one more step anyway. It is built in the silence of sleepless nights when you decide to keep hoping, even when everything feels hopeless. Rebuilding yourself after pain is one of the hardest things you will ever do. It requires courage, patience, and an incredible amount of self-compassion. There will be days when you feel like you are making progress and others when you feel like you are back at the beginning. But every small effort matters. Every time you choose to get up, to try again, to believe in yourself, you are piecing yourself back together. You may not return to who you were before the pain, but maybe you aren't meant to. Maybe the pain is shaping you into someone wiser, more compassionate, and more authentic. Life's hardships often come without warning. They arrive as accidents, illnesses, heartbreaks, and failures that shake the ground beneath us. And when everything we knew or believed in crumbles, we are faced with a choice: to stay buried under the rubble or to rebuild stronger and wiser. This rebuilding doesn't mean forgetting what happened or pretending the pain never existed. It means carrying the lessons with you. It means finding purpose in the suffering, no matter how small. Sometimes the lesson is simply that you are capable of surviving things you never thought you could endure. Pain can break you open in a way that makes you more empathetic. You begin to understand others' struggles more deeply because you have walked through your own. You become gentler with people, more patient because you know what it feels like to be fragile. Pain strips away superficial concerns and shows you what truly matters. It clarifies your priorities. It reveals the people who will stand by you when things fall apart and the ones who will disappear. And as difficult as these revelations are, they are also gifts. They are painful gifts, but they offer truth and clarity. You are not weak because you have experienced pain. You are not broken because you have struggled. Pain does not make you less valuable or less worthy of love and happiness. If anything, it makes you more human. It connects you to the shared human experience of loss and longing and healing. You don't have to hide your scars or pretend you are fine when you are not. Your story, pain, and all can be the very thing that inspires others to keep going when they feel like giving up. There is a kind of beauty that can only be found in broken things that have been put back together. In Japan, there is an art called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold. Instead of hiding the cracks, they highlight them, making them a part of the object's history and beauty. That is what happens when you choose to let pain make you instead of break you. You fill the cracks in your life with strength, with wisdom, with love, and those cracks become part of your unique beauty. You are not meant to stay trapped in your pain forever. It may feel like it is swallowing you whole, but even the deepest wounds begin to heal with time and care. You are allowed to grieve, to feel the sadness, the anger, the fear, but you are also allowed to dream again, to hope again, to live again. Pain may visit your life, but it doesn't have to define it. When you choose to rebuild yourself after pain, you are not erasing what happened. You are honoring it by becoming someone who didn't give up. You are proving that even in the face of suffering, there is still life left to live and there is still love left to give. You become a living example that pain, no matter how deep, does not have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of a new chapter, one where you are stronger, braver, and more resilient than you ever thought possible. You are enough just as you are. In a world that constantly tells you to be more, do more, and prove yourself, this simple truth often gets buried beneath layers of self-doubt and insecurity. We are bombarded with messages from the moment we open our eyes in the morning, messages that whisper and sometimes shout that we are lacking. Advertisements tell us we need this product to be beautiful. Social media shows us curated lives that seem happier, more successful, more perfect. People around us, knowingly or unknowingly, question our choices, our paths, and even our worth. It is easy to start believing that we are incomplete, that we need to change, fix, or upgrade ourselves to be worthy of love, respect, and happiness. But the truth is, you are already whole. You do not need to seek permission to exist fully and unapologetically as yourself. You do not need anyone else's validation to be worthy of joy or love. You were born complete, and no amount of criticism, rejection, or comparison can change that. Your worth is not something that fluctuates with the opinions of others. It is not something that increases when you succeed or decreases when you fail. It simply is. It has always been there, even on the days when you couldn't see it. The idea that you are not enough often comes from the outside world, but over time, those external voices become internal ones. We start doubting ourselves, questioning if we are good enough, smart enough, attractive enough. We compare ourselves to people who seem to have it all figured out. We convince ourselves that we need to earn our place in this world by being perfect. But perfection is a lie. It's an illusion that keeps us chasing after something that doesn't exist. And while we are chasing it, we miss the beauty of who we are right now. You are enough, not because of what you achieve, but because of who you are at your core. You are enough with your flaws and imperfections, with your quirks and complexities. You are enough with your past mistakes and your future dreams. You are enough on the days when you feel strong and confident, and you are enough on the days when you feel tired and uncertain. Your value is not conditional on your achievements, your appearance, or your ability to please others. It is unconditional. It takes courage to believe that you are enough in a world that profits from your self-doubt. It takes strength to stand in your truth and accept yourself without waiting for applause or approval. But that is where your freedom lies. When you stop seeking validation from the outside, you free yourself from the exhausting need to prove anything to anyone. You give yourself permission to simply be, to show up in your life as your authentic self without masks or filters. You are complete in your own skin. You do not need to be thinner, taller, younger, or prettier to be beautiful. Beauty is not a narrow definition set by society. It is the way you carry yourself, the way your eyes light up when you talk about something you love, the kindness you offer without expecting anything in return. Your body is not an ornament for others to judge. It is the vessel that carries you through life, that holds your heart and your spirit. It deserves your love, your respect, and your gratitude. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It means embracing every part of yourself, the light and the shadow, the strengths and the vulnerabilities. It means loving yourself not despite your scars, but because of them. Your scars tell the story of your survival, of the battles you have fought and the storms you have weathered. They are reminders that you are still here, still standing, still growing. Wholeness means you accept yourself as a work in progress and you honor every step of your journey. You do not need to earn the right to be loved. You are worthy of love simply because you exist. Whether or not someone else sees your worth does not change its reality. The love you offer yourself is the most important love of all because it sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. When you know you are enough, you stop settling for less than you deserve. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You stop tolerating disrespect and mistreatment because you understand your value. You are enough when you wake up in the morning with messy hair and sleepy eyes. You are enough when you stumble and fall and have to try again. You are enough when you succeed and when you fail, when you laugh and when you cry. You are enough because you are human, and being human means being imperfect, evolving, and learning. The world may not always reflect this truth back to you. There will be people who doubt you, criticize you, and try to make you feel small. But their voices do not define you. Your voice does. The way you speak to yourself, the way you treat yourself, the way you believe in yourself, that is what defines your life. And when you choose to believe that you are enough, you give yourself the greatest gift: freedom. Freedom from comparison, freedom from judgment, freedom from the need to prove anything. You are enough just as you are, whole, complete, beautiful, right here, right now. And when you live from that truth, everything changes. Not because the world suddenly sees you differently, but because you see yourself differently. You walk taller, you love deeper, you live braver. And that in itself is more than enough. Choose hope over fear and gratitude over regret. Life constantly presents us with a choice between these two paths. One leads us to darkness, self-doubt, and a life spent looking backward. The other leads us toward light, possibility, and a heart wide open to the beauty of what still lies ahead. The truth is, life will never be without pain, loss, or disappointment. We all carry moments we wish we could undo, words we wish we hadn't said, or opportunities we feel slip through our fingers. Regret can feel heavy, like a weight we carry in our chest, always pulling us back into yesterday. And fear can be just as paralyzing, keeping us frozen, afraid to step forward in case we stumble again. But in the middle of all of that noise, there is still hope. And there is still something to be grateful for. Hope is not naive optimism. It's not pretending that everything is perfect or ignoring the struggles we face. Hope is choosing to believe that tomorrow holds the possibility of something better, even if today feels difficult. It's having the courage to take one more step, even if your legs are tired and your heart is unsure. Hope whispers, try again. Hope says, you are not finished yet. Hope is the tiny light that remains even when everything else feels dark. And sometimes it's the only thing we have, but it's enough. Fear thrives on uncertainty and self-doubt. It convinces us to stay where we are, in our comfort zones, even when those places no longer serve us. It tells us we're not ready, not strong enough, not worthy. And it often draws its power from our regrets, from all the times we tried and things didn't work out the way we wanted. But if we let fear lead, we miss out on all the beauty and potential that life still has to offer. Fear closes doors while hope opens them. When you choose hope over fear, you allow yourself to move forward. You begin to focus on what could go right instead of what might go wrong. You give yourself permission to dream again, to trust again, to love again. You stop living in the shadow of what didn't happen and start walking toward what still can. And when you walk in hope, something beautiful happens. Self-love begins to grow. You start to see yourself not as a collection of mistakes or failures, but as someone who is resilient, someone who is capable of healing and rising. Gratitude works the same way. It shifts our focus from what we have lost to what we still have. Loss is inevitable in life, whether it's people, opportunities, health, or dreams. There will always be things we wish could have been different. Regret makes us replay those moments over and over, trapping us in a cycle of if only. It is easy to stay stuck there, to let regret color every experience and cloud every hope for the future. But gratitude breaks that cycle. It reminds us that even though we have lost things, we have not lost everything. When you start looking for things to be grateful for, you realize how much you still have. The breath in your lungs, the people who stand by you, the lessons you've learned from your struggles. You find strength you didn't know you had, simply because you took the time to see it. Gratitude doesn't erase the pain, but it softens it. It gives you something to hold on to in the hardest moments. It roots you in the present and opens your heart to joy, even in the middle of difficulty. Self-love blooms in this space where hope and gratitude meet. When you choose to focus on what's possible instead of what's missing, you begin to see yourself differently. You recognize that you are not defined by what has happened to you, but by how you have responded. You start to appreciate your own courage, your persistence, your ability to keep moving forward. Self-love isn't about ignoring your flaws or pretending your life has been easy. It's about loving yourself through the process of becoming, embracing your own humanity, and celebrating the small victories along the way. When you focus on possibilities rather than limitations, you create room for growth. You open your heart to new experiences, new connections, new dreams. You stop saying, "I can't," and start asking, "What if I can?" And even if you don't have all the answers, the simple act of believing that you are capable makes all the difference. You no longer see yourself through the lens of regret or fear. You see yourself as someone who has survived, someone who is still here, someone who is still writing their story. Life is not about what you've lost. It's about what you still have to offer. Your wisdom, your kindness, your laughter, your compassion. Every experience, even the painful ones, has shaped you into who you are today. And who you are is someone worthy of love, respect, and joy. When you choose hope and gratitude, you are not denying the difficulties of your past. You are honoring your strength by looking forward. You are saying, "I am more than my regrets. I am more than my fears. I am someone who still has so much to give." The world needs people who choose hope over fear and gratitude over regret. It needs people who can stand in the middle of brokenness and still see beauty. It needs people who can love themselves enough to keep going even when the road is hard. And you are one of those people. Every time you choose hope, every time you find something to be grateful for, you are planting seeds of self-love. You are creating a life that is not defined by what you've lost, but by all that you're still becoming. Soft smile. Pause. Thank you.